Very pleased to welcome Mr. Karim Mousa, Senior Vice President e-Mobility at Siemens Middle East. Thank you very much for being with us. Since our last meeting, basically, how is the charging basically scene developing in the UAE and the region?
Yeah, I believe we met maybe around 6 months ago, and there's been considerable development on EV charging infrastructure in the UAE and the wider region. I think now there is a realization that as more electric vehicles are rolling out onto the streets, as governments and government strategies start to drive this adoption even further, that the need for electric vehicle infrastructure on our roads, in our public spaces, in our residential spaces, is becoming more of a necessity.
Yeah. Which types in particular are in demand in the region?
At the moment, to be very frank, it's both. Right, there is still a long way to go on both types of charging, which is the AC and DC charging. The AC being more suitable for residential and maybe office charging, meanwhile the DC being more suitable for highway and fast charging in public spaces. Both are in demand at the moment.
Solar, any plan to roll solar charging stations?
Certainly, I mean, there's in fact, I would say, increasing demand for solar, particularly in areas where the grid connection is not good enough, right? And the owners of the property or the developers of that project are realizing that rather than connecting to the grid, they can connect to solar panels, battery systems, and connect this off-grid system to charging. And this is already happening across some locations in Saudi Arabia as we speak.
In terms of partnerships, we remember well the partnership with Al Futtaim, future electric mobility company. Where are we with developing further partnerships?
I mean, we're working with a number of our partners across the region to develop partnerships both on the residential side as well as their public charging network. Ultimately, car manufacturers realize that they need to provide two things. One, which is a charger for the new driver's residence, where this person could charge at the comfort of their own home. And number two is to provide a charging network which this driver could access, especially if they cannot install a charger at their home.
We know that it's quite easy or relatively easy to install charging stations within houses, villas. What about buildings? Do you have any special talks with the developers in the UAE and beyond to install and facilitate the installation of charging stations?
I mean, thank you for highlighting this. This is one of the key challenges we have in various parts of the region. We call it the high-rise problem, right? You have 1,000 residents in a building. If all of them want to buy an electric vehicle, how do you provide them charging? And this challenge is, I would say, the perfect example of where hardware and software need to interface, right? Realistically, you will never be able to provide all the power requirements of, let's say, residents of a high-rise, which could be in the thousands. So you'd be talking about megawatts of power for one building, which is not feasible for a grid. Here is where you would need smart systems to be integrated with the hardware and to enable a sort of balancing or prioritization and power modulation programs for residents. This remains a challenge. There hasn't yet been a concrete example of it being solved, but we're working with our partners.
We see that charging stations and the infrastructure the UAE is more advanced than other markets in the Middle East. What is next? What other countries?
I mean, I would say almost all GCC and countries in the Levant have been quite active, right? This is primarily in preparation for the rollout of more electric vehicles in these respective countries. Saudi Arabia is, I would say, also one of the bigger movers, but this doesn't mean that we're not seeing big activity in Kuwait, in Oman, in Bahrain, in Jordan, even in Lebanon. So we're keeping an eye out on all these markets.
What about any special deal with the manufacturers, with the global manufacturers, to facilitate the process or to have a partnership?
We're working with car manufacturers currently, at least their representation in the region, to be able to provide charging solutions to their new drivers. So we have 2 or 3 partnerships lined up. Maybe something we can disclose once these
in terms of quality assurance, it's an open market. We're seeing different types of charging. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. What type of warranty are you giving as Siemens?
I mean, from a product perspective, our standard warranty is typically 2 years, and that's something we can extend up to 5 years. The reality on the ground is we need to be able to meet our service and warranty commitments with our network of partners across the region. What that means is being able to respond to our customers' queries relatively fast, being able to remedy any issues relatively fast. This is something I believe Siemens and I think all other manufacturers are striving to achieve here.
Karim, thank you very much for being with us today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.